What is intuition? An intuition is neither caprice nor a sixth sense but a form of unconscious intelligence. What is the antidote to fear? Knowledge is the antidote to fear. How should we approach uncertainty? We have to learn to live with uncertainty. What does intelligent decision-making require? Intelligent decision-making entails knowing what tool to use for what problem. Why don't physicians always do what's best for patients? Because they practice defensive medicine, do not understand health statistics, or pursue profit instead of virtue. What is defensive medicine? A doctor orders tests or treatments that are not clinically indicated and might even harm the patient primarily because of fear of litigation. How should we make decisions under risk and uncertainty? If risks are known, good decisions require logic and statistical thinking. If some risks are unknown, good decisions also require intuition and smart rules of thumb. How simple should things be made? Make everything as simple as possible, but not simpler. Why do committee meetings often stall? Because in a negative error culture, everyone lacks the courage to make a decision and defers it by asking for more data. What is Einstein's rule in an uncertain world? Einstein's rule is a general way to realize that less can be more in an uncertain world. Why might public education fail to overcome cognitive illusions? Because cognitive illusions are difficult to overcome, making paternalistic strategies the only viable alternative. What do we fail to teach our children? We teach them the mathematics of certainty but not statistical thinking or the psychology that shapes their fears and desires. What's a critical question to ask about risks? Always ask, what is the absolute risk increase? What is the danger of generating precise numbers for uncertain risks? They produce an illusory certainty. What should one do if reason conflicts with strong emotion? Don't try to argue. Enlist a conflicting and stronger emotion. What are intuitions based on? Simple, smart rules that take into account only some of the available information. Why is certainty undesirable? Because if we knew everything, life would be drained of emotion, joy, and surprise. What might convince a fearful spouse to fly instead of drive? Reminding her that long-distance driving puts the children at greater risk. What does a high need for certainty lead to? It makes people more prone to stereotypes and less likely to remember contradictory information. Can someone be rational and still be wrong? Yes, one can be perfectly consistent and yet wrong about everything. Why is risk literacy essential today? Because it is as indispensable now as reading and writing were in previous centuries. What was revealed about the cancer drug Avastin? It failed to prolong life and in fact shortened it, despite billions in sales. What would happen if we knew everything about the future? Our lives would be drained of surprise, pleasure, and joy. What kind of incentives exist in Western medicine? It is legal for physicians to receive cash from pharmaceutical companies for prescribing drugs. Why is a high need for certainty dangerous? Because it prevents us from learning to live with life's inherent uncertainty. What is enlightenment? Man's emergence from self-imposed knowledge, using one's own understanding without guidance from another. Why do headlines favor large numbers? Because bigger numbers make better headlines. How does civilization advance? By extending the number of operations we can perform without thinking about them. Why is value at risk misleading? Because it provides a number without understanding, in a world of uncertainty, not known risk. What's the difference between risk and uncertainty? Risk involves known alternatives and probabilities, uncertainty includes unknowns and surprises. Why are Hong Kong elevators fast? Because they skip all floors containing the number 4. What is the biggest obstacle to becoming risk-savvy? The quest for certainty. Why is children's information valuable? Because they tell all they know and then stop. What does the inappropriate use of PSA screening result in? A profit-driven public health disaster with unnecessary, debilitating treatments. Why did a surgeon perform unnecessary surgeries? His peers defended him by saying he had 4 kids in college, and quotas were set regardless of patient need. When is a problem considered insoluble? When the steps to solve it increase exponentially with the problem's size. How will genetic technology affect us? It will shape emotions and values, and likely lead to more abortions. What did Henry Paulson wrongly believe in 2008? That financial institutions were strong and markets were resilient, shortly before the crisis. What did the calculus of probabilities aim to do? To help the many by formalizing the good sense of the fortunate few. What does creativity require? The courage to let go of certainties. How did belief in independent testimony lead to probability? By seeking to quantify intuitions through degrees of belief. Is perfect memory desirable? No, it would impair learning, abstraction, and efficient retrieval. What should be taught to create informed citizens? Reading, writing, and statistical thinking. How does brand recognition influence decisions? It narrows choices, and the second cheapest recognized brand is often chosen.